What's up everyone, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing a beer from Põhjala, and they're out of Tallinn, Estonia, and this is their Maple Bänger. So this is an Imperial Stout with maple syrup, and underneath that it says a banging Imperial Stout brewed with a generous addition of maple syrup and infused with toasted maple wood. It comes in at 12.5% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review, this bottle is just under 13 months old, and I picked this one up at Halftime Beverage via halftimebeverage.com. So in the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies that I picked up. And this was from my second Halftime Beverage order from earlier this year. I picked up a bunch of beers. I think it was like 30 beers. And I saw that they had this available, and I haven't reviewed a Põhjala beer since April of 2023, I believe. So it's been like 2.5 years at this point. When I ordered it, it was around about 2 years. So I was like, you know what? Time to review a Põhjala beer, and this sounded just fun as all hell because it's maple syrup and infused with toasted maple wood. It does say serve at 56 to 64. Keep my darker beer fridge at 54. By the time I turn on the camera and everything, we're probably in that 56, 57 range for sure. So let's crack this one open. Hope that everything's okay here. Again, this is just under 13 months old, so this one I want to say was announced on social media back in like late September, and I'm reviewing this one in early October of the following year. So again, just under 13 months old. So let's give it a pour and see what we got going on here. I'm going to pour the entire thing because I plan on reviewing and drinking this entire bottle today. I think this is, I should have looked on the side, but I'll look in a second, but I think this is 11.2 fluid ounce, right? It's 11.2 fluid ounces, which is what, a 330? 331, something like that. So we'll throw this over here like that. And yeah, anyway, that poured out like somewhat like motor oil. If you look on there, there is alcohol legs for sure. Not really sheets, but there's legs at the top. That looks beautiful. That is straight up pitch black. Has a dark brown colored head. It was about a finger. It's now about a half finger. It's kind of dissipating probably from the maple itself. You know, the bigger, higher ABV, 12.5%. A lot of times, you know, you start losing the head, but it is what it is. It looks really nice. Let's get it a nose. So the one thing, and I should have probably drank this one a little bit sooner, but when you have so many, you know, barrel-aged beers and beer mails from people and stuff, I try to prioritize. And this, because it wasn't barrel-aged and because I had other things I needed to get to, I was like, all right, we'll be fine. And I've had some older Põhjala beers with like adjuncts that have held up, so I'm like, it's fine. The nose, though, indicates it gives me that generic sweetness. If you're somebody who's experienced a lot of different maple beers before and you've had them aged, to me, it just gives off a generic sweetness that I wouldn't tell you is exactly, like if I was doing this blind, there's no way I tell you it's maple, but I know there's some kind of adjunct because of the addition of this sweetness in the nose, like this perceived sweetness that kind of reminds me of a faded maple. Big roasty, toasty, almost charred malt in here. That infused maple wood, there is almost like this slight like oaky vanilla thing going on, like almost like it is barrel aged as opposed to just being fused with maple wood. There's a bunch of dark fruit in here, like raisins and dates and plums, figs, sweet cherry. Like it almost has like a Belgian kind of like strong dark or Belgian quad kind of like fruitiness. Yeah, vanilla oak. And there's, again, this perceived sweetness that is the faded maple, but I might be calling out like the addition of cocoa nibs or something. Because there is a lot of chocolate and coffee. It's like mocha in the nose. Like it has coffee and chocolate. It's like a combination of the two. Not overly sweet. Yeah, it smells really good. And 12.5%, nah, I don't get a hint of the alcohol. Yeah, it smells really good. Let's get into it. Cheers, everyone. Ooh. Let me go back in. This is praise for this one, but it could be looked at as a negative depending on like what you feel about it. I am reviewing this like less than a week after I reviewed Barrel Aged 1050 from Oscar Blues, the 2025 vintage. I'm reviewing this one like 6 or 7 days later. Yeah, it's like 6 days later. And that one's fresh in my mind, right? this beer tastes like that minus the barrel aging, which means this tastes somewhat like 1050. Not exact, but this is a lot more deeply roasted with the malt character, a lot more bitter than I anticipated. It has a hop character. This is just under 13 months old, and it feels like it's a fresh, huge American Imperial Stout, Russian Imperial Stout, something like that, with the addition of that maple syrup and the maple wood, which is giving it a uniqueness that is not exactly maple because it has faded. Anyway, body mouthfeel. Body's like lower side of full, maybe a bit thin at 12.5%, but thick enough for me to enjoy it. Like, so I could see someone drinking this and be like, yeah, it's a bit thin. It is. It's 12.5%. It's lower side of full. I'd like to see this medium to full on body, right? So it's a little bit thin. Nothing, no big issue. The mouthfeel, it's approaching moderate carbonation. But it's really smooth on the second half of the palate and a touch of creaminess as well. So I like the mouthfeel a little bit better than the body, but they're both pretty good. The taste, if I was doing this blind, I would just think this is a really robust Imperial Stout that's like 12 to 13%. Forefront, deeply roasted malt, charred malt. There's deep, dark, bittering chocolate, like baker's chocolate. Unsweetened cocoa nibs or unsweetened cocoa powder. There is like I'd say medium to like full-on roasted coffee. That mocha nose that I was getting, it's more just straight on. It's like mocha if it was an unsweetened mocha, like no sugar, no cream or anything, just mocha without any kind of sweetness. It's really almost raw up front. Like, right, it's something that if you don't like old school Imperial Stouts and Russian Imperial Stouts that have that with like not a huge residual sweetness, you won't like this one. I am enjoying this one, but I also thought this would be something different because of the maple syrup and the infused maple wood. It's a really roasty, toasty, deeply charred malt Imperial Stout to me. There's this like brown sugar, raisin, plum kind of dark fruit, kind of like caramelized sugar, dark fruit thing midway through the palate. And then on the second half of the palate, the maple syrup sneaks in, but it's not full-on maple syrup because of the age. It's just like this added oomph of sweetness that to me, you could mistake for, again, like an addition of chocolate or cocoa nibs. Brown sugar, caramel, something like that. It's not necessarily, it doesn't taste like maple syrup, but there's this added sweetness that kind of hits. The woodiness from the maple wood, again, is giving me a little bit of oak, vanilla, even though it's like, it's maple wood. It has that kind of like just woody kind of like vibe to it on the finish. This is very fucking dry. This is like bone dry with a moderate to touch over moderately bitter finish. This leans more dry and bitter than it does sweet, which is wild at 12.5. This is not for everyone. I could see somebody drinking this beer right now in the state that it's in, under 13 months old, bitter, dry, roasty, toasty, not a huge kick in the maple syrup and being disappointed with it. I am not disappointed with it. I do enjoy it. I don't love it. Now, part of this is my fault, picking this up earlier this year when I could have got to it 5 or 6 months old. Instead, it sat in my fridge for even longer. You know what I mean? This was September. I could have drank this one. I think whenever I did that was, February, March, something like that, even April. So let's say somewhere between 5-7 months old. I think the maple would have hit a little bit harder. Definitely would have hit harder, I would assume. But as is, like, I dig these types of beers, so I'm not disappointed. I'm just disappointed from the fact that I picked this up because it's a maple Imperial Stout, and it doesn't really have a lot of maple character, at least as far as I can tell. The glass lacing is, phenomenal. This is a really tasty beer, but it's not exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I'm A-okay with that. It happens sometimes. Sometimes reviews and beers can, go left when you're thinking they're going to go right, and vice versa. It is what it is. But this is a nice beer. I know Põhjala does good stuff. I've had numerous beers from them over the years. I've reviewed like 3 or 4 on the channel. This will be like the 4th or 5th. And yeah, I just need to pick up their stuff a little bit more often. We don't see them as much here in the Buffalo, New York area as we used to, but still a good brewery. This is a good beer, and I'm going to give it a rating as such. Before I do so, let me just say that 12.5%, nice warming in my chest. I can tell it's a bigger beer in the palate, probably 11-12%, so it doesn't hide it extremely well, but it also isn't overly boozy. It's boozy enough for a 12.5% Imperial Stout. So Põhjala, they're a Maple Bänger. I'm going to give this one a go low 4.25, go 4.15. I think I'm pretty happy with that score. Like, I think that's a fair score to give this beer. Price point availability at Halftime Beverage, which is always a little bit more expensive. It was $10.49 for this bottle, so still less than $1 an ounce coming from Estonia. I'm okay with that. Like, it's Põhjala. If I can pay $1 or less an ounce, I'm fine with it. I paid a little bit more in the past for something like their barrel age or oak age beers, so it's fine. Preferably, I like to see this one like $8-9, but $10.49, I'm okay with it. And maybe this is $8 or $9 where you live. Again, Halftime Beverage a little bit more expensive, but they get their hands on some cool beers, so no issues there. And then availability, it's Põhjala. I have no idea. I just know here in Buffalo, New York, as I said, we used to see a lot of their stuff. Now it's drips or drabs, and I do know Halftime Beverage occasionally gets them. Outside of that, I don't know where this gets distributed, in Europe or here in North America. I really have no idea. So if anybody knows or you've seen this one, please post in the comment section. Also, if you've had this one before, please post in the comment section. I guess in summary and to conclude this one, I really like this beer from a beer standpoint. If we take style and like adjuncts out of the way, it's a deeply roasted, very flavorful Imperial Stout that leans dry and bitter, not a ton of residual sweetness. The maple you don't really get, but I do enjoy it. If we're saying how does this taste as a maple infused and we'll just say maple infused Imperial Stout, I'd give this like right now like a 3.5. But that's partly on me for waiting, but also, I don't know, just any kind of age on maple syrup most of the time, if it's real maple syrup, you just get that perceived sweetness, or at least I do, and you don't really get the maple character, and I think that's what's happening here. So it is what it is. Good beer. Could have been great if I would have drank it a little fresher, so that's on me. It is what it is. So again, if you had this one before, post in the comment section. Appreciate everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.